Okay, the Spotify version is now live. Hello, everyone. We have been gone in the Shadow Realm for 3 months. 3 months, like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
3 weeks.
Say,
Oops.
3 weeks to a month, something like that.
Hey, okay, I just got done 5 exams in 8 days, so
The brain is a little fried.
Yeah, so like if I'm not
okay.
speaking so hot, my
Words
apologies. I'll get better.
It's okay. Words are hard.
Don't count on it. I'm not going to get better, but since we've been gone, I can breathe for the first time. No, never mind. Since we've been gone, a lot of things have been happening.
Yeah,
have been happening.
For better, for worse, for both of us. He has been slammed with school and applying for grad school. I am psycho enough to take on a position of the manager at Duquesne Student Television and managing 40 plus people because I am dumb.
You're not dumb.
I'm dumb mentally for trying this, but it's worth it. We both mentally hate ourselves for differing reasons.
Dude, I don't mentally hate myself. I just hate myself in general.
You know what? This is what sports are about. We get over hating ourselves to hate other people.
Dude, I cheer for the right team for that. I hate my own team. I hate other teams. You know, it's perfect, really. It's a perfect fit. Very, very perfect fit.
True.
But I think there is like one topic that like has to start the show off because it was a huge story while we were gone. Like, we're very late to the party, but at least with this we have a lot more information and we can like tell the story like from the onset down to the conclusion. So, for those of you who aren't aware, the Blue Jackets announced in July that their next head coach would be Mike Babcock. Yep. Which, for those of you who are Red Wings fans or Leafs fans or Ducks fans, you were wincing just even at the thought of them hiring Mike Babcock with how his tenure in Detroit was and how his tenure in Toronto was. So, to provide some background for those two coaching tenures, in Detroit, he had a history of verbally abusing players. Like, apparently, the biggest name that spoke out about this was Johan Franzen. There were numerous occasions where he would verbally abuse him in the locker room. He'd verbally abuse him on the bench. It got so bad to where in Chris Chelios' book and in interviews, he outlined like what Mike Babcock would say to him, and even Chris Chelios was like, it was one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen from a coach. It made Johan Franzen not want to show up to the rink anymore. It made him not want to play anymore. It made him want to retire. Like, to give you an idea, like, that's the very abridged version in his tenure in Detroit. In Toronto, when he first got there, like, it was with like Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews. When they first got there, he sat Mitch Marner down, and basically what happened was he wanted Marner to rank his teammates' work ethic from the best to the worst, and Mitch really, really didn't want to do it. Like, he wasn't comfortable. He stated he wasn't comfortable, but he did it anyways because Mike had a ton of power over who got on the roster and who didn't, and as a rookie, you have to be weary about it, even if you're a high draft pick, like, you never know when you're going to crack the lineup.
And it's also something worth noting. I thought, in terms of like that story, he said it first, like, oh, this is just between us.
Yes,
and
even then,
posted it.
Yeah.
In the locker room for everybody to see.
Yeah.
I don't know if he said if it was like he put his name on it.
He put his name on it.
Oh,
he said, here is what our high draft pick rookie thinks of all of your work ethic. This is what he thinks of all of you. And apparently at the bottom it was like Nazem Kadri and Tyler Bozak at the time. And they were like really nice and chilled out about it. But if he didn't have a good locker room, like, that could have alienated him from all of his teammates already. And as a rookie, like, you need to have good relationships with the veterans. You need to have good relationships with, like, the coaching staff, with management. And that's not a good way to start it off. And even with that, like, the Leafs just let him continue on. They let him coast until finally team performance they finally gave him the boot out the door, which was long overdue in my opinion. I wasn't a fan of Babcock once.
He stayed from 2016 to
2016 to 2020.
Okay, 20. That makes more sense.
Yeah, he was there for 4 years.
He stayed for the Cap series, both the Bruins, and then he got fired midway through that season after.
Yeah, so in 2019 he lost the Bruins series, and he was there 2019-2020 until their game against Vegas where Fleury robbed Nick Patan. Which, that's a name.
And then he was like, ew, don't like short guy.
Nope. But this new situation...
Bad.
It's really bad.
So
it's about on par with the rest of them, if I had to assess it. If you know Mike Babcock's history, you're not going to be surprised by this.
So long story short, before he goes into like the details of everything, he got a big deal. I forget how long. I want to say it was 5 years.
I think it was 5 years, $10 million.
Yeah, something like that. It was a 5-year deal, I'm pretty sure, to go be the coach for the Blue Jackets. And then the first things people noticed during that... He's responsible for 2 of probably the worst defensive signings this offseason. If you want to go look, he gave an 8-year deal to Damon Severson.
Oh, I got it.
Then he traded for one of the ugliest contracts in the league, and Ivan Provorov.
Did the Flyers a favor.
He literally helped the Flyers and did nothing in benefit. So all of that, and then just 2 months into his job, he resigned, and I'll let you explain what he did in particular.
So, quick correction before we go on. His contract was 2 years, $4 million average. He was making $8 million. It was only 2 years because they knew he had baggage. But
I guess that's true.
And keep in mind, the Blue Jackets GM interviewed many people through the process, but it was only people in Babcock's circle. It's people he coached on the international teams. It's people that he coached for a really long time, even in college. So of course they're not going to say anything bad about him because they were never with him when he was in the heat of battle in Detroit. They weren't there to witness the Johan Franzen stuff. They weren't there to witness the Mitch Marner stuff. So, if you're asking Rick Nash, who is in the Blue Jackets front office, what he thinks about Mike Babcock, well, Rick Nash was never coached by Babcock until the Team Canada. I believe it was the 2014 team in Sochi, but that team won the gold medal, and an international tournament is way different from competing for a Stanley Cup in terms of intensity. Your coach doesn't have power on who gets in the lineup and who doesn't on an international team because you only have 24 skaters. So there's only so much power he could have over you. So
whereas in an organization you have tons of guys
minor
leagues and stuff.
Yeah, you have guys in the minors. You can get buried in the minors. You can get waived. You can lose a ton of money if you even speak up about it. But
there is a surprising amount of. Unfortunately, there's a surprising amount of bully culture in sports, and this is something that a lot of organizations don't like to. A lot of fans, I don't think, like to talk about until it either happens to their team or it comes out. A lot of fans don't like bringing it up because, we like to think that. A lot of us like to think the best until things start going wrong.
I sort of give the Blue Jackets fans a little benefit of the doubt because they saw a big name, Mike Babcock, who's won a Stanley Cup before, who wanted to come to Columbus, and that was a big part of the Blue Jackets history is that they can't attract
big name anything.
They can't attract big name players in free agency until very recently with Johnny Gaudreau, and they haven't been able to attract good head coaching. They just haven't been able to do it because of their location. It's a similar thing to Winnipeg where, they do and don't want to come there for various reasons. So if you're Jarmo Kekalainen, you're oh, Mike Babcock wants to come here. you get excited, but you need to do the due diligence. And he said that in his interview that, like, oh, we did the due diligence. But when it came out that they only interviewed people in Babcock's inner circle, everyone was like, pause, you really didn't do your due diligence. Like, you should have talked to Mike Commodore. You should have talked to Johan Franzen. You should have talked to anyone in the Leafs organization. They would have told you, this guy's bad news, steer clear from him. Because, like, he looks good on paper, he looks good in the interviews, but the way he treats the younger players and the bottom 6 players, like, it's inexcusable. Like, you can't excuse it. So, enough of dancing around what he did. So, what Mike Babcock did was it originally came out that Mike Babcock wanted to ask players to show him pictures of their family, but with the caveat of Mike Babcock went through their camera rolls to see quote-unquote pictures of their family. And when word got out about this, there was a lot of outrage on hockey Twitter and in the hockey world. We're like, oh, Babcock's at it again because he has a history of pulling stuff like this. It got to the point where they produced a joint statement between Mike Babcock and Boone Jenner, who Boone Jenner is a 30-year-old married man. So with him, and he's the captain, with him, like, he has a solid spot on the team. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have any risk of being kicked off. So it might have been benign for him. It could have been like, hey, I want to see pictures of your family. Let me know what type of person you are. He showed him. He had the conversation. That was that. Okay. But apparently there was word from Paul Bissonnette was alerted by numerous players in the Columbus locker room that it was way more than that. That Mike Babcock would spend hours looking through players' phones, camera rolls, texts, like anything you can think of, he was looking through it. Which, if you're a 30-year-old married man, there is a big difference from your phone being looked at to say you're a 19-year-old and your phone is being looked at. Like, there's a big, big, big difference. And, like, even then it doesn't really matter what your age is or who you are because, like, if he finds something that he thinks he doesn't like, that's your roster spot.
Yeah.
But it's a huge invasion of privacy because, like, players were super uncomfortable about this, and Bissonnette, like, sounded the alarms for this, and people didn't want to give Paul Bissonnette any light of day because they thought, oh, his vulgar language about this subject makes it unserious, or, oh, he's not, like, a smart hockey knowledge guy. Like, he doesn't have the credibility that we do. And then it comes out that Paul Bissonnette was right from the Players Association. So a lot of players had their phones searched through for hours. Like, think about that. It went from a 20-minute potential conversation to, hey, I want to get to know you and get to know your family, to let me look through every single asset of your life. Let me check who you're talking to, how you're talking to them, your camera roll, what you do on the weekends. Like, that's not his business.
No, and I think the bit that makes it worse here than anywhere else is the amount of power I think he does have. He would have here if this story got buried. And I mean it in the most literal sense, because if you look at the Blue Jackets roster, I'd give you maybe 5 or 6 names on their roster who are literally safe.
Yeah.
Everyone else could be waived, cut, and they're like, oh, or sent down to the minors. You know, like guys like Kent Johnson, Kromashenko, even guys like Roslovic and others, like, they could get buried.
The scary part of this, though, like, with the good thing, like, this story wasn't buried. If the players didn't alert someone with, like, a high audience like Paul Bissonnette, this story would have gone unnoticed. He'd still be in the organization. Mm-hmm. He still would. He was still there for years after the Franzen incident, and he was there for 4 more years after the Marner incident.
Yeah.
So this story could have very easily gotten buried. And in hockey, like, we saw this, like, it's not exactly the same, but we saw this in Chicago where the Kyle Beach incident was buried for a decade. It was buried for a decade because back then there was not an audience like for a podcast like Spit and Chicklets, like this whole thing could have been buried, and like who knows what else is going on in the league. Like this is the first thing that a mainstream podcast has exposed and has dealt with an issue the right way. Like in hockey, it just doesn't happen. There's a bully mentality. There's the boys club mentality that they can do no wrong.
Yeah, there's a lot of boys club mentality. I mean, you could just go. How many different teams could you list that could be that way? Boston's like that.
The whole league's like
Boston's like it. Toronto's like it. Sorry, I'm just saying that honestly.
Like, yeah, it
Toronto's
doesn't bother
like
me.
it. Edmonton is so. Most Canadian teams. I'm not saying that to be harsh, but like
all the Canadian teams are like. I'm here to tell you, every single organization is boys club, no matter how you put it.
In some way, yeah, and I think I do agree with that. The only ones I would say maybe not are like some of like the newer ones, like. I'd say Vegas and Seattle in a degree. I'm not saying they're perfect, but I'm saying they're more goal oriented than like boys club. Like look at the difference. Like I wouldn't say teams like Seattle, Vegas. I'm trying to think of a few other teams. Even teams like the Blues in sense.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't compare those teams to teams like Edmonton, Boston, Detroit until very recently. Those teams were textbook standard of what a boy. Philly, very much Philly. Kings, even the Kings. The Kings are very much a boys club. They just have a lot of success, so they just don't get a lot of the shine on it. But when they were bad, everybody talked about how much nepotism sprang through the organization. So there's levels to it, and I do agree with that. But I think there's a fine line for how teams like Seattle, Vegas, Lightning did it versus like most of the Canadian teams, Boston, Buffalo for a very long time until very recently. Like there's a difference, but it's like it's a big ongoing problem is the bit that makes it really concerning. There's a big like if I know you, then whatever. And I get that because of someone who's in the sports industry and like sports marketing side, like sports marketing, side of it. There's a fine line between needing to know someone to trust them and hiring someone because of literally the fact that you know them. And there's a lot of that in hockey, unfortunately.
And, like, you made a really good point, and here's something, like, I want you to think about, even with the new teams in the league. How long has Ron Francis been around the NHL?
Very long time.
Very long time.
George McPhee's been around for a while.
George McPhee's been around for a long time.
I forget who's the GM for the... Who is the GM for the Lightning?
For the Lightning, it's Julien Brisebois, who has been around for a long time.
I forget where he's from.
He's been around for a long time. He was around Steve Yzerman for a long time. So he inherited all of Steve Yzerman's contacts. So really, like, the thought experiment that I'm trying to convey here is all the GMs know each other. Just all of them do. It's just a fact. They do. So say you're in Mike Babcock circle, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the players says he's uncomfortable with you looking through, like, your player's phone, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're Mike Babcock, you go to Jarmo Kekalainen, the GM, and say, hey, this guy has a really bad attitude. We need to get rid of him. Okay. So that word travels really fast that this person has a bad attitude. So in the sphere of general managers, if a player has a bad attitude, and in the NHL they're notorious for avoiding people with bad attitudes, quote unquote, you're not going to get on another team.
I give a great example of that right off the jump, and it was from the same organization.
Go for it.
Dubois.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's perfect because his time in Winnipeg showed otherwise, and all the stuff that came out after, but like, the way he was getting treated in Columbus was terrible.
Even look at someone who has had issues in the past, but like look how much uproar there was when someone signed him. Evander Kane. Same thing.
Yeah, but that's a bit different because he did a lot of it to himself.
He did. However, if he had a gambling problem, that doesn't make him unable to play hockey anymore if he had a gambling problem. Like, it's one thing if the personal issues he had, like, allegedly at the time as well. Like, that's, like, a whole separate thing. If that's going on, yes, you don't touch him. But with the Oilers and the Sharks, it was only about, like, the gambling addiction. That was all it was about.
But it was because it was for, like, really dangerous behavior. One, because gambling is heavily.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you are not allowed to do that no matter what sport you're in. And two, it was because he was putting himself in, like almost, like, dangerous amounts of debt, which is, like, a headache for the league itself to deal with.
Well, that's not necessarily the team's problem. That's a personal issue for Evander Kane. That's not putting the league down.
Well, it puts the team in jeopardy because that's bad media attention that's going to them.
Yeah, but you deal with it in-house. Like, you know what you're getting with a player like that. Like, it's the same thing. Like, you sign him, you deal with it in-house. It's one of those things where you have to be real with him and be like, hey, if this continues, we're going to have to let you go. Like, it doesn't have to get to the point where, oh, this guy has a terrible attitude and he has to get blacklisted from the entire league.
Yeah, the examples that I would give would be, like, Dubois and Tony DeAngelo.
I'll give you another example. Kyle Beach.
Yeah.
It derailed his entire career because the Blackhawks were like, oh, he has a character problem.
Mm-hmm. Folks, I want you to do one favor. If you're listening to this or watching this or whatever, I want you to go to Google. I want you to go to Hockey Database. I want you to look at what year did he get drafted? Do you remember? Was it like 06?
I know. Let me look. I know he was like a high draft pick.
The incident happened in 2010.
It was around 2010. Hang on a second.
I think it was either 2010 or 2011.
I am looking.
While you're looking.
He was drafted 11th overall in 2008 by Chicago.
2008. All right, I want you to look at his stats from, like, I was saying, like, you can read them off now, or people, I want you to look at his stats from 2008 to 2010, and then I want you to go and look at his stats after 2010.
And keep in mind, he was never an NHL guy. He was mostly a minor league guy. But so the first year he played in the minors was 2010, 2011, 71 games played, 16 goals, 20 assists, 36 points. Solid for a minor league guy, solid for a young guy. 2011, 2012, so this is after the incident happened. 19 games, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points. The next season, 66 games, 16 goals, 10 assists, 26 points. After that, he leaves for Sweden because it's the lockout year. 7 games, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. Comes back to Rockford. 7 games, 4 goals, 4 points. With Hartford, because he got traded, 39 games played, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points. So you can see there's a steep decline. But notice, he never sees NHL ice time. He never did.
No.
And a lot his first season was in the minors, which was 2010-2011, which was right after the incident happened in the 2010 playoffs.
No, I mean you said he got drafted in
2008, but he played in juniors before he came over. His first season in Chicago was 2009, 2010, but he played 4 games in the AHL.
Okay, because I was also looking at his junior stats, and he was, like, amazing in juniors that year. And that's the reason I kind of bring that up is, like, before all this stuff happened, he was electric. He was a big difference guy. And, like, very shortly after all that stuff happened, he never got his mind right because – I mean, how do you get your mind right after something that, like, terrible? Like, that's just not something that's like, just brush it off, you'll be fine. Like, you know what? It's like a little scratch on the knee. No, it's not. It's like a stab through your heart that just keeps bleeding. That doesn't stop. And yes, unfortunately, and this is a phrase of this is the most harsh thing about life is that as horrible as things go, life keeps moving forward, but at the same time, like, you're not going to be able to keep up with life when stuff like that happens. It's just the reality of it.
Yeah, and, like, going back to him getting blacklisted, like, you mean to tell me an 11th overall pick wouldn't have gotten a single shot at NHL ice? Not a single shot? He was a career minor league player, really. Like, no, he wasn't. He got blacklisted. The organization wanted nothing to do with him, so they buried him in the minors.
Yeah, because they
hid everything.
Yeah, and that's the worst part about it is because they know a lot of people knew that this stuff happened. If he came up, he would have gotten national recognition, even if it was just small. And unfortunately,
His voice would have been louder.
And mind you, ain't the Blackhawks like an original six? Or not an original six, but they've been around for a while. Like, they're not a new organization.
What, the Blackhawks?
Yeah.
They're an original six.
Oh, they are original
Yes,
six.
they are.
Yeah, so case in point, they're one of the biggest organizations in the NHL. What their players say gives a lot of weight. So it's like that's not something that just gets swept under the rug.
No.
So,
but it gives you an idea of how much power these organizations have.
Yeah, and
like, it doesn't matter who you are. You could be the 11th overall pick, or you could be someone who worked up from the East Coast League all the way up to the NHL. It doesn't matter who you are.
And I think that's the bit that's like the toughest to stomach is that like through all this that like I'm glad that players came out about it because unfortunately, I'll say this, I would lose my job in a heartbeat because I wouldn't give my phone to anybody.
Nope.
And that's not saying like, oh, why? Because you have nasty stuff on your phone? Well, yes, but no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. More importantly, it's the fact that, especially in a lot of these cases, just because the name rings a bell, they don't know who Mike Babcock is. A lot of these people, probably all of them. Like even Johnny Gaudreau, all he knows is who he is in passing. Like,
yeah, because you don't know him personally. You know his name, but you don't know him personally.
At best, he's an acquaintance. At worst,
not even.
He's a random stranger that, like, just came in while you're working.
And Johnny Gaudreau's a high-profile free agent, so he would have gotten treated pretty good.
Yeah, he would have gotten treated well. Boone Jenner would have gotten treated well. Probably Zach Werenski would have gotten treated well. Those are like the names I would have listed right off the back were like safe for their jobs, but like anyone else wasn't. So. And it's just the fact of the matter is, it's like you wouldn't want think about this, people. Everybody always calls celebrity, like all these athletes, they're overpaid celebrities, divas, drama queens, whatever. Let me ask you this, you, the listeners, the viewers, if anybody who's disagreeing with all this stuff about Babcock and anything, would you, as a person, go to your boss, hand him your phone, go back to work for 3 to 4 hours? And be like, oh, you know what? Just fine. My life's an open book. What's the worst that can happen? No. And if you are, cool. But like, at the end of the day, most of us have things we want to keep private. That's the basic principle of what privacy laws are. No one is allowed to force you to hand over your phone, your records of that stuff. If it's public, that's a different thing.
Yes.
But that's the difference. So, that story does bug me in a lot of ways because it's like, and it's really messed up versus like the other stuff because a lot of it's manipulation. And this is more so manipulation, this is bullying on the highest degree.
It's bullying and manipulation. It's both.
Yeah, where the other one is, I think, just more manipulation.
Yes.
This is the most damning one. And you think after all the years you would have learned, but unfortunately...
Of course not.
Because he never got actually, like, disciplined by the league.
No, he didn't. And he
kept doing it.
Once an abuser, always an abuser. Like, it's just how it is. Like, it doesn't even matter if you're disciplined for it. Once an abuser, always an abuser. Like, it doesn't matter. He never went through, like, anything to address these issues. Like... He's like, oh, yeah, I've reconciled. I coached in college, so we're good now.
Yeah. So
not a single apology, but he would later resign from Columbus without them having to fire him because Columbus didn't fire him with due cause, so which means he gets paid anyways. So he walks out with an $8 million payday without coaching a single game.
So, folks, let's just see about that. So let's just think of this over through to end it. They're going to pay him did you say $8 million?
$8 million.
They're going to pay him $8 million for 2023 to 2024 and 2024 to 2025 to not be there. That is the same as buying out either Ryan Suter or Zach Parise, folks. That is, at least those people played for your team, at least
and
for
aren't
a year.
Terrible people.
Yeah. Like, just that blows my mind. I had a lot of questions when they were making that decision.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, all we're gonna have now is nothing but questions on why they signed him. And if you're the PR team for Columbus, good luck trying to...
They already fumbled.
Good luck trying to manage this through the season. I would not want to be anybody working in the communications or PR department for the Columbus Blue Jackets right now. Your job is going to be very hard, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Speaking of terrible Peter, Bill Peters is back in hockey. He, are you aware of the Bill Peters incidents? I'll call them.
No.
So Bill Peters was a longtime NHL coach. He coached the Hurricanes and the Calgary Flames.
Okay.
During his tenure with the Calgary Flames, he liked to have racist remarks towards a player known as Akim Iliu. He played for the Calgary Flames for a while until getting a bad reputation and got bounced out of the league. Does that sound familiar? So Bill Peters was out of the league since 2019, and he's still out of the NHL. May he never get another job in the NHL ever again.
Trust me.
Ever
how
again.
bad the Flames were, I don't think that's happening.
So,
soon.
Bill Peters is back in hockey. He's in the WHL now. Someone in his inner circle thought it would be a good idea to bring him aboard. But it's okay. He reconciled. He coached in Russia, so he's fine now. He has a good reputation. He coached in Russia and had winning records. Because winning is all that matters.
I'm not going to say a word on that. Y'all can be the judge of that, of what Jimmy just said, because all I have to say is that he coached in Russia.
So
and that kind of almost speaks for itself. I'm not saying it to be harsh. I'm just saying because it's.
He was named the head coach of the Lethbridge Hurricanes of the Western Hockey League. All because he knew the general manager. The big story about this was he never apologized to the player he spewed racist remarks to until a week after or a week before he got hired through an email to another person. He didn't even reach out directly.
See, this is stuff I've always said. I've always said this, and I can't say my original quote because we're on DSR's airway. Yeah, but I'm just gonna say the PG version of it. It takes more to be a terrible person, to be an awful human being, than it is to be nice. Like, it takes more out of your day to say those bad things. It takes more out of you to not just go and be like, hey, I'm sorry I did this. I hope you can forgive me. If not, something like that along those lines.
Yes.
But, because I'm bad with words sometimes. Because I forgot how I was going to end that. But long story short, it's like, just admit that you're wrong. I just never understand that. Like, some people are so adamant of just, like, never wanting to admit they're wrong. Unless it's, like you said, unless it's something where you'll get either more money or another opportunity at what you want to do.
Yes.
Then your story will change. And half the time people aren't even sincere about it. They just do it because,
it's for their own benefit and their own benefit alone, because this is a foot in the door to get back to the NHL.
Yep.
It is. It's another coaching job in a high profile league in the Canadian Junior League, the CHL. But Bill Peters did not reach out to this player, Akim Iliu, at all until a week before he got hired, and he didn't even reach out directly to him. So he only started to apologize to him when it was convenient for him, and it was through email. It wasn't through a face-to-face thing. It wasn't a phone call. It wasn't a Zoom call. Nothing. It was an email through another person. So, look, I have a lot of opinions on Bill Peters. There is proof that he's a racist. So, if you're a person of color in that locker room, for the Hurricanes, and this isn't the Carolina Hurricanes, it's Lethbridge Hurricanes, but if you're a player of color in that locker room, what do you think about this? You're terrified that you're going to be treated with hate, treated differently, and not see ice time, which means your NHL dreams are essentially crushed. Because what makes you think he's not going to do the same thing he did in Calgary in Lethbridge? Like, there's no evidence that he's changed, because he hasn't. If he has changed, an apology would have happened. There would have been appropriate steps taken, but he didn't do that. He's like, oh, I got another job, so let me just clear my name through PR, and that's that. I don't have to do anything else.
Not even good PR. Like,
no,
that's the bit that's funny.
Because he doesn't care. Because he's hateful.
I just think he's just rude. Like, he's just ignorant. Like, because if he even had a good PR team, like stuff like this bothers me, because you know what I do, and it's like literally all you would have to do to get another chance is as follows. Even if it sounds shallow, I'm saying this from the perspective of PR to limit damage and save face, is that you go out, well, you start by shooting an email over this person. You shoot some form of direct line of communication to him, whether if it's an email, if someone knows his number, whatever it is, saying, hey, even if it's just an Instagram DM that he never sees, like, just something along the lines of, hey, I did a lot of awful stuff way back when. I'm terribly sorry about this. Hope you can find in your heart to forgive me. If not, I wish you nothing but the best. Just something like that. It's as simple as that. That takes 10 minutes, and anybody who is a PR or crisis communication expert will tell you that in 5 seconds. That is that simple. That is 3 sentences that I just crafted up on the spot. That does way more than anything else that this guy did.
Well, and my issue is if you take it to PR, it kind of forces the victim's hand here to forgive him because it's been taken public. Like, in my opinion, he should have gone to him one-on-one, whether it was a video call, a phone call, or in person, and tried to hash the issues out. And, like, keep in mind, he doesn't have to forgive him. He doesn't. And really, he hasn't, and he really shouldn't, because the apology was fake.
Especially now.
He only did it to advance his career. And, like, you can see it in the press conference. He only did it to advance his career. So, like, I'm at a loss for words. We're going to have to see where this goes, but there's going to come a point where I think this is going to fall apart, because, like the Babcock situation, like, once an abuser, always an abuser.
And folks, let me tell you this all the time, as we both learned, just because you win stuff doesn't change what happens. It doesn't.
I'd rather lose all of the time and have good people in the organization than win and have terrible people. In my opinion, that's how I feel. People might feel different, but that's how I feel.
Different about that.
I think we should go to better news.
Oh yeah.
Which, in my opinion, this is long overdue. I genuinely hope that this project works. I think it'll be good for hockey. The PWHL was founded, I think it was a couple weeks ago. So this PWHL, meaning the Professional Women's Hockey League, they have 6 teams for representation. So they have 3 American teams and 3 Canadian teams. So Boston, Minnesota, New York, Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto are the new teams. I don't think team names have been established yet. They haven't. I know their season starts pretty soon. Let me get their schedule up here, because where is their schedule? I know they have the original 6, so 2024. Okay, so they will begin play in January of 2024 with the 6 teams I mentioned before. They will be playing from January to May. The top draft pick was Taylor Heiss, I think her name was, out of the University of Minnesota. Very good player from what I've seen. A lot of players are from the Canadian U.S. national teams are in this league now. Big names like Marie-Philippe Poulin, Sarah Nurse, Hillary Knight. Amanda Kessel, like you name it, they're there. I think this is going to be very good for not only all of hockey, but women's hockey as well, because they've really lacked stability in a professional league. The national programs can only net you so much money.
Yeah.
So if this league does well, and I think it has the potential to, especially if they get a partnership with the NHL, similar to what the WNBA has with the NBA, they'll have like sustainable income. They'll be able to play hockey like closer to home if they wanted to, instead of traveling the world with Team Canada. They can rack up more accolades, so getting like career recognition in the Hall of Fame, which they deserve to be, like not only for like their international accomplishments, but for their league accomplishments.
Yeah.
Just all around, I think this is a very good thing for hockey in general.
I agree with that. No, I do.
I think they're probably going to need a little bit more of a network to get this thing going, but like it's really early, so we're just going to have to wait and see.
And the biggest thing that could definitely help, I'm just going to say this right now, because it hurts. It's helped women's soccer and it's hurt women's basketball. And the reason I say this is because what really gets people excited, a good product.
Oh, yeah. And I think they have
hockey
potential.
looks like they have a really good chance to be a good product. Like women's soccer is a good product. I will, if I see a women's soccer game on, I will watch it. Like especially after all these, like this last year of me working at the school SID and I cover the Duquesne women's soccer team. Like I genuinely will watch a women's soccer game if it comes on. I don't have a want to watch a women's basketball game over a men's game. And I only say this because, and it sounds like a harsh statement. The only reason I state that is because if you put the product side by side, almost 99 out of 100 times people are going to pick the men's product and over the women's. And I only say that because I forget if the games are longer, they do a better job promoting. I think they've gotten better at promoting the WNBA, but it's still like it's not great.
To me, what I think one of the main problems with the WNBA is their timing of their season.
The timing of their season isn't great, and overall, their product's not amazing. And I say this because
no, it's not.
I said this all the time. Just because they have names who are really good, they don't have any what's their defining thing? Where's their defining players who have like big like Michael Jordan-esque moments? Like you know what? Because I think about it, there's a big story of it was like a big women's hockey goal. I know. I'm trying to think if you remember this.
Marie-Philippe Poulin was.
I think it was, yeah. Because there was like I can't remember. I thought it was with the University of Minnesota. I have to look this up. I saw it was a commercial that was from ESPN. I talked about like one of the best like women hockey goals ever.
Oh yeah, it was the person that just got drafted. It was a person that just got drafted. It was very recent.
Yeah,
I think she did I think it was the Michigan goal was pulled off.
Yeah, something. Yeah, and like ESPN did a whole commercial talking about like that goal and like how it like was barely broadcast or something like that, and like how important of it was. Mm-hmm. And I would like when I saw that, I was like, they are actually making a bigger effort to put like women's hockey towards the forefront, which I think is a very good thing. And that's why I think if they do this right and they make a product that's genuinely exciting, there is speed, there's flair. Let the girls fight each other the same way the guys do, like in the same way, like let them check each other, like the same stuff. We treat everybody the same for how the guys do it versus how the girls do it for hockey. You're going to get a lot of people showing up. It's going to take a bit of time, like you said.
Yes.
But there's going to be a bigger flair for people wanting to come in right off the jump versus how other sports go about it, where WNBA games struggle with attendance. Women's soccer games, it's up and down in terms of attendance. Like,
in my opinion, there is an avenue where this league can be successful.
Yes.
I think you make it very, very accessible to just young people in general, especially younger women. So you got to find platforms that are accessible to young women. Like the biggest one is YouTube. And I wouldn't put it behind a paywall. I would live stream the games. You make your money off the ad revenue because like you're gonna get sponsors. It's sports league, like you're gonna get sponsors. Yeah. And if the viewership is up, like the sponsors alone can pay for it. So once you get to a point where like, hey, we have a lot of people watching, like just keep it accessible, because if you get the young crowd interested in it and keep going to games affordable, you've pretty much struck gold. Like people are going to go to those games. And once people are interested in it, you can expand the league. So like you have 6, but you can put a team in Philadelphia, a team in Pittsburgh, a team in Vancouver, DC, Nova Scotia. Like I would, if I'm them, I explore markets that the NHL
haven't done,
is refusing to go to, but you know they would do well.
You know, it's one I would think
Quebec City.
Quebec City. You know, it's another one I think.
Which one?
I don't know if you would agree with me on this. Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
I think there should be one in Salt Lake City. I would even this sounds too ambitious, but try again in like Hartford.
Mm-hmm. They did, in my opinion, they did a great job with the draft. They kept it like open to the public. It wasn't behind a paywall. Like, if you get a brand deal with ESPN, like, that's great. That prolongs the longevity of your league. But just in the beginning of this, like, you need to keep games affordable, and you need to be able to get eyes on the screen, like, as widespread as you can. Like, I just think YouTube is the best avenue because the young generation loves it. Like, even stream it on X. Like, I would say stream it on Twitter, but, like, the game is that website is terrible now. But I'd still try it.
Yeah.
Stream it there. Stream it on Instagram if you can. Like, I would just get it anywhere that is public domain and it's free.
Yeah.
Like,
no, 100%.
I think it has potential. You need to get, like, good social media managers, like, to connect with people. Like, the NHL is notoriously bad with this, so, like, if you can do what the NFL is doing with their social media, like, jump on that very, very quickly.
Go watch the Eagles' social media team. I'm dead serious. They make I will get like so many so much, like, especially on the short side, like if it's Instagram or my YouTube shorts, I'm like 1 every 5 videos is the Eagles, because like their stuff is so good and they do just such a good job connecting everybody together. There's always a good culture in there. So part of it's building good culture, part of it is also getting people to like interact with each other and with the audience.
And get people acquainted with like your top stars of the league. Like, put Marie-Philippe Poulin on every single poster you can in Canada. Put Hillary Knight on every single poster you can in the U.S. Amanda Kessel. Like, you have a ton of players
them on commercials
that have recognition that like people can look at and they're like, hey, I know her. It's like a Sidney Crosby deal, where Sidney Crosby was marketed to literally everyone with eyes, like, in, like, the early 2000s, mid-2010s. Like, you need to do something like that. Like, market your players really well, show highlights of stuff they've done on the international stage, because these players are really good. They can play hockey. Like, there is one person on, like, a high school team I played on and a summer league that I played on that was better than all of the guys out there. Like, in my opinion, she's a future star of the league. Lacey Eden, like, she's going to be a future star. She already is on the USA hockey team, so I believe she is a senior this year, so she is draft eligible next year. So, in my opinion, yes, in my opinion, market the young talent good too, especially when the highlights exist. Like, just market, even when it gets obnoxious. Just find a way to get relevant on TikTok. Find a way to get on the YouTube shorts. Like, anywhere you can. Just eyes all the time. Like, I think that is a very good avenue, because, unfortunately, there are a lot of hockey fans that don't even know this league exists yet.
No.
Which is a shame. Like, you don't want to have the, like, unfortunately, the WNBA has this reputation of being a second-tier league that no one really cares about, which just isn't fair, because, like, the girls can play. They can. It's just, for whatever reason, whether it be marketing or
It's
just factors beyond their control. It just hasn't worked out.
It's a mixture of both because like I could say it's for a starter. Like one big thing that I think hurts their game is the fact that you watch the NBA, and I could say this with probably somewhat confident. I would say about 40 to 50% of the league, if not more, can dunk. Whereas I've looked at stats for the WNBA, it's like 1% or less.
They should lower the rim for the WNBA.
They offered it, and they turned it down.
And they said no. But, like, it's even then, like, in this new league for hockey, there are rules to women's hockey that I think need to be adjusted for the professional league. I think, because in women's hockey, checking isn't that big. Like, you can do it, but there's a very fine line of what you can do and what you can't do. I streamline the rules and make them like the NHL.
Yeah, I would
because, like, I've seen it in person with women's hockey players that I've seen that I know can be professionals in this league. They can handle it.
Yeah.
They can. Like, there is no reason why they can't handle it. Like, I think you adjust the rules, make it one for one like the NHL, the exact same rules, let them play the game, because I think it has potential.
No, I 100% agree with you, because you know what? One thing stays consistent for NHL to, I'm so bad, PWL?
It's the PWHL, Professional Women's Hockey League.
For the PWHL, and that's both are psychos. I'm kidding, but like no, both hockey players are just crazy. Y'all could you could attest because you are a hockey player. Y'all get hit like in the face and the chest, get knocked down, and then be like, all right, let's do it again. like you watch football. Well, I guess football is kind of a mild example. You watch baseball, basketball, or soccer. The first time players get hit, they're down. They're staying down for like 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah. And y'all just get up like, all right, let's go again. Like, y'all are crazy in that sense. And like I said, I respect it. But y'all are crazy, and it don't matter.
Well, and hockey to me is a special sport, and women's lacrosse also has potential for this. Yes. I've been shouting from the rooftops about this. People would be more interested in women's lacrosse if they played the same game the men can. And they can. Like, this isn't like, oh, they're not, like, as strong or anything like that. Like, yes, they are. They can handle it. Like, if you want to get eyes on your sport, especially a sport that's already successful, you model yourself after the successful league.
No, that's exactly the point. Like,
yes.
Like, that's how people be successful. Why do you think minor league baseball does well for the most part? There's very few examples of teams that deviate from what traditional sports do, and they find success. I have one example off the top of my head. 2 if you count the XFL, and I don't know if because they're still pretty streamlined to what the NFL does in a lot of ways.
But they've experimented with rules.
But they've experimented with some things. There is one example I can give of a team that is successful because they do literally like crazy stuff. You know what I'm referring to?
No, I don't. What is it?
Have you heard of the name the Savannah Bananas?
Oh, yeah, I have.
They're successful because they're so crazy, off the wall, outrageous. They do stuff that's so ridiculous to what baseball is.
I was going to say, it's like baseball's version of the Globetrotters.
It is. Actually, I guess you would count the Globetrotters as well. So there's 2 examples. The Globetrotters do things so crazy, outrageous to what basketball is, but it's so much fun to watch that it's like you would turn on and watch it. But those are outliers. Those are things because they're so different and they do it with such confidence and good marketing that they are able to get away with doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Versus, like...
Look at their social media presence, though.
Yeah.
With the Savannah Bananas. Like, you see them everywhere. You see them everywhere.
The Globetrotters were, like, the talk of the town through, like, the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah. And I'm like, you already have players on the NHL panels. Like, they're visible. You need to market your league. Like, the best thing that they're doing before the league has even started, they've had women compete in the All-Star Classic for the NHL. They've done the skills challenges. They've done 3-on-3 games between the U.S. and Canada.
Wait, they did the All-Star before the season?
They've done joint things with the NHL All-Star game.
They started the NHL All-Star. Okay.
They started in 2019. They did it last year. I believe they did it in 2022 as well. where Schofield did the fastest skater challenge and
Okay, that
beat
makes more
like
sense.
I think she beat like 4 or 5 they beat like 4 or 5 like men's skaters too. And also there are also women in the Harlem Globetrotters as well. It's men and women, so it's both.
Really?
Yeah, it's both.
It's been a while since I watched Globetrotters, so I didn't know that.
That's the point where like you didn't know that. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that don't know that.
I learned something new today. It was because I haven't watched the Globetrotters in a while. I just don't watch basketball that much is the issue.
Yeah.
I need to get back into it.
But like with these women's professional sports leagues, like even like in that example with the Globetrotters, people probably don't like I could probably ask a majority of people on Duquesne's campus and they wouldn't know that there were women in the Globetrotters. Which like let that sink in for a second. Like
Wild.
that's unacceptable, honestly.
That's crazy.
So there is potential to market themselves. I think they're on a good path of doing it. I really hope this takes off because
I do too.
just as a fan of the sport, like it's good for the sport. Like more opportunities to play hockey is good for the sport.
Amen to that.
It
brother.
shouldn't just be a male profession. Like women should have the opportunity to be professional athletes just as much as men can because you can't tell me they don't work just as hard. They do. Like
sometimes I think they work even harder. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So we will be keeping an eye on that. We will definitely be giving eyes. Like you said, it starts in January.
It starts in January, and I plan to cover them in segments of the show just as much as the NHL. Like I'm probably gonna.
What American teams you said? Boston, Minnesota, and.
So it's Boston,
Who's the other American
Minnesota, New York,
and
we have Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa.
Yeah, I knew the Canadians. I was trying to remember the third American team. So it was New York. Are they playing NYC?
Yeah.
Are they sharing like? Are they? That's the other question. Are they sharing
They're
arenas?
not sharing the arenas.
Are they playing at more like college stadiums? You think?
I'm looking this up right now.
Good point. Because I was curious about this because another thing is attendance. Shoot, if they do it right, they could get more attendance than Arizona Coyote games. I mean, what?
Did they unveil the team names?
I don't know.
For some reason, I can't find them.
Maybe not. There's still a decent amount of time. There's still 4 months, so I would say give it another month, and you'll probably hear something. But
where do they play? Where are their buildings? Like,
yeah,
this is so hard to find. Is there like I hope there's a website.
See if there's a website while you're doing this. But I guess while he's doing this, I just want to throw out some fun news I saw. I was looking through some stuff earlier, and
yes, there is.
The Wild dropped new unis. I just wanted to bring that up quickly.
A bunch of teams dropped new unis. We can go through them.
They were the ones that I saw because it was like a throwback to the North Stars, and they look so good. Have you seen them?
Are those like the retro ones?
Yeah, like I said, it's the ones that throw back like they're an homage to the Minnesota North Stars. I think they're so sick. I'm gonna go to Google's. Or actually, no, I can find it on Twitter.
Where are they playing? Have they named their buildings yet?
Maybe not.
I swear they have. Like, I knew I saw it somewhere. All right, I'm looking up the PWHL Toronto team.
What you think?
The Subway jerseys, I think they do.
I think they look so good. I think they're honestly my favorite jerseys for next year.
I know they play in Toronto, Google. I want to know where the they haven't picked the arenas yet.
Okay.
That's why.
If I were to guess, they're probably picking, they're probably all going to do, college stadiums, if I were to guess.
The Minnesota team is playing in the Xcel Energy Center, which is where the Wild play. I believe the Toronto team is playing in the Coca-Cola Coliseum, which is where the Marlies play.
Okay, that's not a bad idea.
Ottawa's
minor
home
league teams as well. I forgot about that.
Ottawa's home rink is TD Place Arena. That's where the OHL's Ottawa 67s play. Boston will play in Walter Brown Arena, which is where Boston University plays. Why is New York playing in Bridgeport, Connecticut? They're also looking at Albany, New York for the MVP Arena, which is 14,000. Montreal is playing in Laval Place Bell, which is 10,000. So Montreal's 10,000. New York is 8,500. Boston is 4,000. Toronto is
9,000.
About 9,000. Ottawa is 7,000.
Hey.
So Minnesota is playing like in the biggest arena of the bunch.
You know what the stadiums have in common?
What?
They all will get bigger crowds than the Arizona Coyote.
Dude,
I had to do that. I had to do it.
you're not wrong though.
I had to do it. That was too good.
You're really not wrong though. Like they will,
That was funny.
which is why they have potential to do good. Like they don't have Gary Bettman around. They can do stuff that isn't for dinosaurs. Oh yeah, we got some captaincy news. We got a couple of captains that were named. So we got Quinn Hughes was named the captain of the Canucks, which in my opinion, good pick. Could have been Elias Pettersson, but I think Quinn Hughes was good. The new most obscure captain is the Winnipeg Jets. Adam Lowry is now the most obscure captain, which is kind of nuts.
Adam Lowry?
Yeah, Adam Lowry is kind of a role player, so very, very weird. We'll see how that goes. Do you want to recap the scores of a couple of the NHL preseason games? There's not a lot to take away from it. Like, there's just one that I kind of want to laugh at. Because it's preseason.
Which one?
So to close it off, I Canucks fans, I don't like to dunk on you, even though I love to dunk on you. The Vancouver Canucks in their first preseason game lost 10-0.
Oh, I just saw that.
It's Jim Rutherford used the word playoffs when the preseason first started, so that's pretty cool.
Who is Matthew Coronado?
Coronado?
Bro, he scored.
I know he's 20.
He scored a hat trick.
I know he did. Look at him go. Doesn't even have a picture on the CBS Sports app.
I guess.
Shout out to Arizona for also losing 7-0.
Oh yeah. I guess before we go, I want to do one thing for you. I want to do one thing. I want to throw out who do you think's going to be the biggest regression candidate and who's going to be the biggest team to bounce back this year?
Oh, crud. If you asked me this question like a month ago, I could have given you a good answer. Boston regression, because, like, yeah, you're not winning 65 games again. Like, you'll probably be a playoff team, but you're not going 65 games again. Biggest climber?
Biggest candidate to bounce back.
Oh, boy. To bounce back? I'm going to give the generic answer and go Buffalo. I think Buffalo has potential. I think this is the year they make it to the playoffs.
You know who I think might be a regression candidate this year? I'm torn between two teams, but I'm going to say, and this one's going to shock you, I'm going to say the Lightning.
Oh, what, regression? Yeah.
I think the Lightning are going to be one of the biggest one because their team is getting older. They are losing more and more players each year. And after last year, they might. I think they genuinely could miss the playoffs with how tough the Atlantic is going to be this year. I think they could fall short, like be like a Sabres team and have a good season and fall short. As for a team, I think who is going to bounce back and do better this year, I'm going to say
Pittsburgh. I mean, what?
I'm going to say the Blues.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I'm going to say the Blues.
I think they finished third. I think they surprised a lot of people.
Potential.
And finished third, finished above a lot of teams. I think I think the Wild missed the playoffs. I think the Jets finished bad. I think they're going to have their division's weak, which helps. So I think the Blues bounce back this year.
Also, right before we go, I just want to mention that the Flyers also lost 6-0.
LOL to the Devils, LOL.
All right, so that will conclude our welcome back episode. We will try to get on a good enough schedule. There are going to be weeks where I'm going to have to cancel because my exams are killing me, so I apologize in advance. But
we will be making it work.
Yes, we will be. But thank you guys for tuning in to the welcome back episode. We've been gone for like a month, so I'm sorry about that. It might happen again. Probably not, but it might.
We'll be good.
But until next time, we'll see you guys later. Peace out.
Take care.